So I'm going to have a quick look at the James Webb Space Telescope, which is the successor, supposedly, to the Hubble Space Telescope. This gets launched supposedly later on this year. James Webb Space Telescope, we've got the usual cartoons. Instruments on the James Webb Space Telescope. So not only is it a space telescope, but it would seem we've got 4 new instruments on this space telescope: the NIRCam, the NIRSPEC, the MIRI and the FGS. Okay, so it would seem not only is the James Webb a space telescope, but it would seem it's got 4 new instruments on there to make it better than the Hubble. Of course, a lot of people who visit this channel will be fully aware that a lot of the imagery that we get cited that supposedly comes from Hubble will of course be aware that it actually comes from the 747 aeroplane with a telescope on that many of us know as SOFIA. And that kind of got me thinking, with the announcement of this James Webb and this new spec they've got here on this telescope, and of course with me knowing about SOFIA, and of course SOFIA being responsible for a lot of the imagery we see that comes supposedly from Hubble, that got me thinking, I wonder, has the SOFIA got a new upgrade package lined up here that would potentially do the job of the James Webb Space Telescope? Remember, we've got 4 new instruments on this James Webb Space Telescope, as well as the telescope itself. Should we have a look? Should we see if the SOFIA's got any new upgrades planned for this year that might tie in time-wise with this James Webb Space Telescope? Let's have a look. And strangely enough, when we come here, the Universities of Space Research Association, we see SOFIA is due a massive upgrade. SOFIA upgrading one-of-a-kind camera. We scroll down here. SOFIA is upgrading the high-resolution airborne wideband camera plus with 4 new detectors. Remember that, 4 new detectors that will allow it to study magnetic fields in distant galaxy 4 times faster than its current rate. But if we think back just now to James Webb, the spec on that space telescope, what made it better than Hubble, it had 4 new instruments, didn't it? Do you remember? Bear with me. Here, this was the 4 new instruments on the James Webb Space Telescope, which is going to make it so much better than the Hubble Space Telescope. And then of course we come back to the SOFIA with its new upgrade of its camera this year, and of course with 4 new detectors, sensors essentially, thus giving it game away. The SOFIA upgrades, it would seem, are exactly the same as the spec of the James Webb Space Telescope. The SOFIA gets its upgrade later this year into next year. The James Webb is scheduled to be sent into space at the end of this year and will be operational over the next year or so. The timelines are exactly the same. It would seem the spec is exactly the same. 4 sensors to add to the space telescope that the James Webb Space Telescope is, to make it so much better than the Hubble. But at the same time, SOFIA, which of course most of us know is the Hubble anyway, is getting an upgrade to its camera with 4 new detectors. You can't make this stuff up. They're telling you it. They're literally telling you and showing you. We know this anyway, but it becomes very obvious when you compile this information, and the timelines give it away, and of course the spec gives it away. 4 new sensors and a new camera upgrade for the SOFIA, which just happens to match the kind of timelines and the spec of the James Webb Space Telescope. Who would have thought?